I want to start with a clip I put on Facebook. I don't know how many of you are part of the Facebook group. I know some of you are, some of you aren't. But I put something in that I think deserves a good talk about, a good discussion. And so we're going to start. It's from a championship game. Here, let me share my screen. I think I'm ready. I'm going to just play it. I don't think there's any slow. No, there is I have marked it out, but I'm just going to play it to start. Maybe tell you about it as it goes through. But I know the first video is always a little choppy, so I apologize if you're getting some of that now. Yeah. There's nothing special happening in this clip. Obviously, we're going to talk about hand checks, so maybe some little stuff. All right, official calls a hand check. Pretty emphatic. He has a hand check, right? Now I'm gonna do the slow here because we don't need to watch it fast again. But here's what I noticed when I watched this clip. We're down on this end, right? And as the player makes a drive to the basket, his defender has a hand on him all the way down. All right, he stops, passes out. We go to the other end. They put the bucket in. We go to the other end. Same exact drive, same exact hand check. Maybe not exact, but right, got a hand on him. Maybe a little bit more of an arm bar, and we call that one. Now, I guess my first question to you is, I know they're not exactly the same, but do you all agree that's the same play, one end and on one on the other?
Looks very similar to me.
Yep. Very, very similar. So my question is, and I've got some answers, but I want to hear what you guys think. Why do we have a hand check on one end, but we pass on the other end? Two very similar plays. They're not dramatically different. You guys have any solutions or questions, I guess?
Well, you had two different officials.
All right, that's my first take, obviously, right? You've got the trail on the one play and then the trail on the other. So two absolutely different officials. However, should we as a crew and should we as a collective group of officials try to be on the same page as far as hand checks? Is that any different than being on the same page as block charge or as a reach or as a travel, right? It's the same thing.
Well, on that play, I would say, Josh, it looked if the first guy's going to take a pass on the first play here, I would say the next play down, you're early in the game, then you got to take a pass on the next play because you got to be consistent, right?
All right. So now, so you're saying, for consistency's sake, if he passed on this one, which was, I would agree, it's not necessarily you got to get.
Right.
Now I'm going to tell you tonight, you got to get those. But
that's more of a hand check worse on this one than the other side.
I thought this one was worse as well. The other one was maybe more of an arm bar.
Arm bar, yes.
But we agree, neither of them really caused any change in the dribbler's action, except maybe this one. I don't know if the hand check stopped him from driving in. I don't think it did, but that's not
because the other guy came over to double team, so he kicked the ball out.
Right, and that's not the idea of a hand check. A hand check really is written where it's not affecting necessarily the RBSQ, or maybe it's RBQS or whatever, you know what I'm talking about, the rhythm, balance, speed, and quickness. It's about you shouldn't be putting your hands on your defender. That's not basketball. Hands on a defender is not basketball, and they don't want to see that because a hand check leads to a push or a hold. And so if you eliminate hand checks, there'll be less pushes, there'll be less holds because the hands aren't being placed on the opponent. So if back to Tim's point, if you're going to pass on this down here, now, just to be fair, the trail is watching this action, right? Yeah. The lead shouldn't be looking up here. He might be aware that this is going on. The lead now maybe again has to be aware because it's coming into it, but the lead's not necessarily watching this action, right? Because it's coming from trail into the lead. So maybe the lead didn't see what the trail was passing on. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. So when you get to the other end, the lead maybe didn't know that he passed on it. And in his book, that's a hand check. That's a foul. In his book, that's not a hand check. That's not a foul. And that's my point is we as a group of officials don't talk about hand checks enough to where we're able to be on the same page, right? We always talk about block charge. We always talk about traveling. And we're still not on the same page with that as well, I get. But the more you talk about something, the more people come together.
Hey, Josh.
Josh,
Yes.
the C passed on it too, on the first one.
Yeah,
He's
but
driving the lane and the C passed on.
But the C's watching this stuff. That's not really
Yeah.
the C's call, right? I mean, he could come in and get it, but it starts trail. It goes all the way.
Yeah.
So I would say if C gets that, C's reaching out of his area.
Hey, Josh.
This is a
Hey, John.
lead or a trail. And I'm not going to put this on the lead. I think this is totally the trail. The lead could come and get it, but that's a trail. The trail's got to see it. Yes, question.
You know, I was just going to say it's first period. You're 256. You get those. You set a precedent and say what's not going to be tolerated. You get both ends calls. So you're telling this team we're not putting up with that. You know what I mean. You're sending a message. It's going to be called. So it's going to be a lot cleaner game going down because they know it's going to get called. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree that hand checks doesn't mean go fishing for a little one, but hand checks, if you get a little one in the beginning, even if you don't get a whole nother one all game, you've told the coaches, we're calling hand checks tonight.
Both
And after 3 years ago or 4 years ago, how long ago was it when they really made the emphasis of hand checks? Coaches expect it now. You call a hand check, they don't even question you. They don't say, oh, are you kidding me? They used to get all over you, right? Now it's like, hey, Johnny, keep your hands off. So I agree, Art, get them early. My point more on this is we have such a different tolerance of what a hand check is. And sometimes this guy doesn't call a hand check, but maybe he calls the exact same thing a hand check the next time, right? Because the tolerance even with ourselves might vary. Nobody wants to stop play. Nobody wants to cause a game interrupter by calling a hand check, right? But if we don't call hand checks, like I said, it's going to lead to a push or a hold or something even worse. And I know some guys say, well, I'd rather call it a hold or a push because, right, people accept it better. Don't. Call it a hand check, because if you don't call it a hand check and then you call a hand check in the fourth quarter, you haven't called one all game. Well, the last 2 hand checks you called holds, they were hand checks for you, but everyone else thought it was a hold. So call the hand check.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
How about the superstar getting the call? That's one thing we all have to be careful of.
I don't care. No, I don't know. Maybe I'm cranky and old. I don't care if it's a superstar or not. And I know guys will even say, well, he's got 4 fouls. Make sure the last one's a good one. And I agree to an extent with that. But at the same time, if he fouls him, he fouls him. It shouldn't matter who he is. It shouldn't matter how many fouls he has. In fact, if that kid has 4 fouls, he knows he needs to be more careful. So I'm not telling you that you're right or wrong in that thinking, because I know a lot of guys go along that way. I don't like it. Because
No, I don't
now,
like it either, but it
not
happens all the time.
only do I have to watch for fouls and violations, I have to now determine which player is the star player and keep him in the game. That's not my job. My job is to call a fair game, right?
Right.
All right. So anyway, that's just the first one. And I guess it begs more to my point of we've got to get on the same page with hand checks because it's so all over the board. And again, for myself, there's sometimes I'll say, oh, I should have called that a hand check and I didn't, because I think we all default to, I want to keep the game moving. All right. Let's do this next one. All right. You got a hand check at the top of the key. I'm going to play it fast again. Tell me what you all think before this one's actually marked out. Good hand check, bad hand check, borderline pass or call. There's nobody in the vicinity, right? He's coming up the floor. It's just him and the dribbler. Is it a game interrupter to call something like that? Or are you calling it?
It's hard to see.
All right, let's zoom in and slow it down.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
He physically reaches out, right? Now we have to be careful when a player is dribbling towards another. Just because his hand touches him doesn't mean he's hand checking, right? Sometimes the dribbler is causing the contact, but here he reaches out. He physically reaches his hand out to put it on his opponent. And then what does he do? He kind of tries to hold him with his arm. In fact, the offensive player pushes him off a little because his arm is on him from here up to here. This is another reason we need to call hand checks, because if we don't, then the offensive player decides, get off of me, and shoves him. And then we've got a foul on this guy because we didn't see the hand check or call the hand check. Right? We don't want to call a player control on a foul because the kid's frustrated that the other kid won't keep his hands off of him. Agree? Disagree? Comments?
Yeah, he stopped his progress or slowed his progress.
I don't think he stopped it, but I agree. I think he slowed it, but I think he's hindering his movement just by keeping his arm from moving in its regular way.
Yeah, he's got his hand on his waist, and he's hitting him on the arm.
Look where the ref is at. He probably didn't see it. See, look where the ref's at.
Well, the ref called the hand check.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, look at the beginning, when he gets to a certain point, he's on the left side. Look where the guy's left hand. See, he can't see that. He probably blocked for some of that. The rest would have called it sooner.
Maybe.
See, right there.
Well,
Look where the ref's feet's at. So he's on the opposite side of the.
Let's talk about that.
He's got a pretty good view.
Let's talk about
Cullen thinks so, that I'm wrong.
No. I think that's a good comment, by the way. He would have maybe called it sooner. Now, this is a philosophy, right? If you go by the written rule, if you place a hand on a dribbler, it's a hand check. If you place an extended hand on a dribbler, it's a hand check. If you place multiple hands, multiple touches, it's it, right? So they've got it all covered. But as we all know, a player can reach out and touch his player, and most of us aren't going to call a hand check. What do they call it? The hot stove touch?
Right.
Because this is the way I think. If a kid reaches out, even if he's doing it illegally, if the kid reaches out and realizes he's reaching out and touching and pulls it back, he's correcting his illegal action. I want to see a kid, if he pulls it back, okay, good for you. Now, if he puts it back on, wait a second, are you correcting it or are you just going on and off? So my personal self, I'm not going to call that first touch. I'm never going to call that first touch, because is the kid doing it on purpose? Is he correcting it? Is he doing it out of maybe it's normal for him? So I'm going to kind of allow that first part to go. If they keep it on and don't pull it off, that's different. If they take it off and keep putting it on and putting it off, that's different. I'm not a hand check Nazi either. I'm not out there trying to get them, but I do have maybe 2 hand checks a game pretty regularly. Because I try to get one on each side, and we'll show some 2 hand checks soon too. But when you put 2 hands on them, that's even more automatic. Not completely automatic, but it's closer. All right. Anything to share before we move on?
Well, I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
I have more recent years done a lot more youth basketball, and I'm just getting back into high school now that I'm got the weekdays available. So there's a lot more hand checking than there should be in the youth level. And my question is this: when the dribbler is dribbling toward the guy, how do you determine if it's kind of protecting yourself from being knocked over or being pushed and hand check?
Okay, that's a good question. I don't have, an exact answer, but if the kid couple things. If the kid reaches out, so you see an extended arm, then it's a hand check because he's reaching out. If it's like this, even if it's kind of halfway out, it could be that he's just guarding along this way. So use your judgment as to whether you think he is or isn't. If the dribbler is moving relatively rapidly and there's touching, even if he kind of reaches out, you might want to give that a little leeway because maybe he's getting ready for him to come at him. He doesn't want him to run into him. So there's a lot to a hand check that kind of helps you determine that. I would say at the youth level, to be even more lenient with the hand check, probably call less hand checks because the kids are learning, and maybe talk to them more and say, hey, keep your hands off. You can't do that. And maybe you got to get one here, get one there. But, and some of the youth leagues, the kids are pretty good and can adjust, but for the most part, the kids at that level, they're still learning, their fundamentals. So.
And to that same point, at the high school level, they're bigger and stronger, and a touch doesn't necessarily impede the dribbler.
True.
At youth level, it does more.
All right. Any other questions before we move on?
Thank you.
I know Art is just chomping at the bit for the next hand check video.
I am.
All right. Now here's one that it's an extended hand check. No hand check foul whistled. All right. So they didn't call a foul here. I'm going to play it fast again, and then I'm going to show it slow. He's driving the lane. Do you guys have a hand check? The call was out of bounds.
I don't see there's one.
Okay. He puts his hand on him right here. It's still on him. Now you could say, well, it's the back of his hand. Yeah, it's the back of his hand. A hand check isn't necessarily stopping or inhibiting him. Sometimes all you need to do is put a hand on a player, which then guides that player the way you want him to go. You're not applying any pressure, but just having that hand on you makes the dribbler kind of then, well, we'll just keep going this way. He puts it on from here all the way down to here, and then ultimately loses the ball. Maybe not because of the hand check, but
Because the defensive player runs right in front of him and cuts him off.
this is not good defense.
No, it's not. Looks like me out there.
We should not be allowing this to happen. I get no call, maybe no call because you think he might maybe get around him. And if he gets around him, okay, maybe good not to call that. But as soon as you see he's not getting around him and he's keeping his hand on him, boom, I'm calling a foul.
He's got his arm tangled in with him there too. That's a foul.
Look where his body is. He's not even in a good defense position. He's not facing nothing. He's just
he's not. He's simply putting his hand on him to
run him over.
try and control the dribbler. That is the way that he is, whether it's working or not, he's trying to control that dribbler. That's illegal. That's a
run him
hand
out
check.
of bounds.
We got to call that.
Yeah, look, look, the whole thing is bad. The whole defense.
All right. Now those are the only ones that I have marked up. Let me show you a couple others. Here's a two-hand hand check. Oh, Maine South again.
They got a face mask on, so this is recent, right?
Yep, this is recent. And what does he do here? He reaches out.
He's got a hand on the arm, and he reaches in, so that's
reaches
cool.
out, and he puts two hands on him.
There you go.
I can't, for the most part, justify a player putting two hands on an opponent.
And the ref has a watch on.
That is bad. Yeah, that ref's terrible. That is
Got a
bad
ref on. He's got a
defense.
watch.
That's got to be a foul. Okay, now I say two hands is automatic.
Yeah.
But it's not, because there are situations where you may not want to call a foul with two hands. Do you all agree with that statement?
Not many.
Here is my opinion of a time that two hands is on a player where we don't want to call a foul. He put two hands on him. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1, 2. You call that a foul, but what does he do right now?
Releases the ball.
Almost instantly, he passes it to his buddy. Do we need to call that just because he put two hands on him?
No, but look at how he finished it before he passes. He grabs the guy's shirt too.
And he pushes off with his left arm.
Shirt.
I don't think he grabbed his shirt. I think he was trying to kind of push him a little bit,
Yeah.
and it snagged. But to your point, and that's again goes back to my original point. If we start allowing hand checks, it gets worse and worse. And this is not going to be a little shirt grab or a little bump. It's going to be a straight out push or a straight out, grab with of the jersey.
And the ref won't see that because look where the hand is at. He's not going to see that where he's at.
Well, my point is, again, watching this real time, he puts his hands on him and almost immediately passes the ball.
Play on.
So I say you see two hands and go, that's a foul. And after you say that's a foul, if he's released the ball, then you don't need to call it. But if he hasn't released the ball within that half second to a second that you're talking it out, you got to call foul.
What if he throws that ball out of bounds?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. If you think he threw it out of bounds because of the hand check, then you could probably call foul. But if you think he threw it out of bounds because he's just not good or that play wasn't good, I'd probably just say he threw it out of bounds. It's going to be a lot harder to sell. And I'm not saying we make calls to make coaches happy, but it's a lot harder of a sell to tell a coach, well, he got hand checked and then he threw the ball out of bounds as opposed to he just threw the ball out of bounds. Right? All right. Let's find another. Here's another two-hand.
Hey, Josh, just a real quick question, because this is kind of all new with these face masks and everything. What are the rules with the face masks? Do they have to be like sleeves or headbands and wristbands the same color of everybody, or are they allowed to? Because I can see some kids wearing black face masks on the team and white face masks.
You're talking about the players?
Yes.
There is no color restriction.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
because
for masks.
I looked all over for that information and I don't know where it was.
They can wear black, they can wear red, they can wear purple, they can wear fuchsia.
Thank you.
A lot of them even just wear the disposable kind, so whatever color they are. The state basically said we just want them to have a mask. If they start requiring certain colors, then you're going to have a problem, and kids,
Oh, I was just curious how far it was going. That's all. I didn't know.
All right. Here's another two-hander. Okay, did you see there's kind of a delay from when the hands go on to when the whistle's blown? And I'm not kidding. I do this a lot in games. I'll talk to myself. I'll talk fouls and violations out. I think he traveled. Oh, he picked up his pivot foot. His hand's going on him, two hands on him. And if you talk it through, it slows your thought process down a bit, so you're not so reactive. And though, I mean, we know we're reactive because we react to what we see, but we're not as reactive. So in case something happens, it lets you see the play start and develop and hopefully finish before you blow your whistle. Right? Okay, two hands. Boop. Okay, now we got it. Do you guys understand that thought process?
Yes.
And this goes
fast too.
Yeah, and this goes not just in hand checks, in any foul or violation. If you're able to think it through before you blow your whistle, you're going to be better off. Better off calling a foul or a violation a second or two late than calling it before it actually happens. All right. Here's some arm bar. Okay, now no foul is called, but is that not a hand check? He reaches out with his arm,
Carrying the ball too.
takes it off, and then what does he do? He puts it back on. And now, well, you're going to back me down, then I'm going to keep my arm on you. But he's a ball handler. He's not allowed to put an arm bar on a ball handler.
Right there too.
Now,
Okay.
I'm going to allow, for me personally, I'm going to allow this one dribble. And if he pulls it off, all right, I'll probably let that go, because I think a lot of players, maybe you guys don't agree, but I think a lot of players inherently, that's not the word I want to use, but inherently put their arm out because you're coming my way. All right, I'm not going to let you come my way. I get that. But if they leave it on there, they're not smart enough to know that they can't do that. And they should be taught that they can't do that. And then they pull it off. So I'm always, for me personally, I'm going to allow an initial, I've already said it, I guess, before, but I'm going to allow initial illegal hand check, so to speak, and let the kid to try and correct his action.
Can you go back to that one, Josh? I just want to ask you a question. Watch the ball handler with his right hand. Not there. I'll tell you what.
Swatting at him.
Right there. Look at that. Right there. The
Yeah.
way he's holding, he's kind of moving. What do you think? Well, look at that.
All right. So his hand is kind
Back
of
up
under,
just a second. Back
under
up.
the ball.
Back up just a little bit. Back up.
Back up.
Back up. Start right there.
Do you want me to
Slowly.
play regular slow speed here?
Go slow. Watch what he does. Look at him.
Oh,
Yeah, you're right. That looks like a carry.
And also he travel, because watch when he does it. His feet. Watch. Right. Look at this.
Okay, but you can't travel while you're dribbling the ball. So
But he's holding, he's cradling the ball when he's walking there.
okay, so if you want to say the dribble ended because he carried the ball, I would say call it carry. Don't call it travel. I mean, you could. You wouldn't be wrong, but call it carry. One, because it's a point of emphasis. And two, a carry is part of a dribble, right? A carry is a violation of the dribble. Traveling is not a violation during a dribble. So I think you're better off calling the carry, because that more closely matches to what happened than the travel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I saw the carry before I saw the travel. I just caught that, but I'm just watching his hand on that one.
And I agree. And I agree with you. He stops it from coming down very slightly, and brings it back. And that's before the hand check. I mean, he does put an initial on here, but so
Josh,
yeah.
how about that point guard throwing his left arm out to initiate that?
Oh, yeah.
Like that to kind of sweep him
Yes.
away.
Yes.
Well, just like I'm going to allow this initial touch with his arm, I'm going to allow him an initial touch like that. He's not violently sweeping it away or swimming it away. He's not violently holding him or pushing him off. That's two kids kind of chicken fighting, in my opinion. And I think that's okay. By rule, it might be illegal or foul, but oh, see, this coach wanted to carry, Art.
I saw him.
So they all saw too, but I don't know. I think that's nothing, in my opinion.
Hey, Josh, this is Ken. I love these questions and discussions. If you go back to where, let's say where the defender is right around there-ish or so, all right, or maybe around there. Now, we're always taught, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that let's say in this case, if this one's a trail, that they need to be behind the players, all right? But if the trail cannot see past the white shirted player what the defender is doing by staying behind the two of them, is it ever a thought that the trail should sort of move up maybe 5 feet to see between the two players so that they're not blocked?
Yeah. So I don't want to discount what you're saying. So please don't take what I'm about to say as if I'm doing that. But I don't know, when you say they tell you to be behind the players, I don't know if I've ever heard that. Now, I think of what you're maybe like coming up the court, you never want to be in front of the players. And maybe that's what you're saying. It's not necessarily the same thing, but Yes, once you get into the front court, if you see right here, that's a good spot. Because what do you have here? Lots of space between players, right? To your point, as they get closer, if you stay up here, you're going to have a lot more hidden. You're going to start to stack yourself.
Stacked.
Right? And what does stack mean? Well, when you stack a guy, the ball, a player, an official, right? They're all stacked on top of each other. You can't see through.
Right.
So he's a little more, he's not total. He's still got a pretty good angle in my opinion here, but he could come all the way down here and probably should, because he needs to see whatever kind of action is happening in here, a push off, a hold, and he
Good.
might not see it back here. I think that's your point. Yes, Ken?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So as the trail, we do need to be more proactive and come down. So it's all about angles, right? We have to be able to see through players. We never want to get stacked and look. We don't want to look this way. We want to look this way.
Right. Exactly. Thank you.
All right. Here's another arm bar.
What a floor.
6-4.
Okay, got a hand check. The official calls a hand check in this game. He sticks his arm out. Let me pause it. I mean, he reaches out far to make sure he gets his hand on him here. He is reaching and then keeps it on. That is a foul. And the official got it.
That's a good call.
And I'm going to say this again because it drives me crazy with some officials who refuse to call hand checks because they say, well, it didn't affect his rhythm, speed, balance. That's a game interrupter. We don't want to stop the game for that. That's bupkis. That's not a thing anymore. We've got to call these because otherwise, like I said, they will just escalate and get out of control. And then in the fourth quarter, you got nothing but guys putting hands on other guys. That's not basketball. And to, I think it was Art's point, if you call one in the first quarter, especially one on each end, they're all on alert. It's not a new thing for these coaches. They all know they're calling hand checks. Keep your hands off. Keep your hands off. I hear it a lot. You call one hand check and the coach is telling his kids, keep your hands off. All right. Let me see. I got one more. Where is it? Let's see.
Back pretty far there for that one.
That's not what I want. All right, official calls a hand check. I'm going to play it fast again and then ask you your opinion. Do we agree, disagree, call, no call? I just want to say he definitely puts his hand out here. Can't really see it, but by looking at his action, he's sticking it out, right? Puts it on him. Keeps it on him, so he definitely has a hand on him.
He got beat bad.
But he got beat. He beat his defender. I'm not calling a hand check when it puts this player at a disadvantage. You are now you are interrupting the game. You are stopping his advantage. I can't think of the word.
Advantage.
Advantageous.
Get another glass of wine.
You're stopping his advantageous drive to the bucket. He could blow right by him and get a nice 2 points. Now, what does he actually do?
He's passed him already.
But now he barrels this guy over. So you bailed him out from a huge foul by giving a foul to this kid. Now, I know sometimes that happens, and I'm not necessarily saying, whoa, we got to get the big one. No, but he beat his defender. That's why when you see a hand or two hands even that go on him, you say, okay, there's a hand on him. It might be a hand check. And watch the play develop. I am not take this charge out of it. I am not taking away this kid's opportunity to score a bucket by calling a hand check. He totally beat his defender. Allow him the opportunity to finish and get his 2 points. Agree, disagree?
I agree. I would not have called it.
I agree too. I think he should get a chance to finish and get that charge that he did.
He beat him bad. And his hand was not on that long. He just, boom, right there, blew by him.
Yeah, I would say play on.
And the kid got hurt.
Yeah, landed on his ass bone, his tailbone.
And that's why we say it all the time, but that's why we get paid the $67, because it's not a simple, okay, the rule says this, I'm calling it. You have to use your judgment as to what the intent and the purpose of the rule is. The intent and purpose of that rule is not to stop a drive because he put his hand on him, right?
No, he's got him beat, like Art said.
Beat him bad. I mean, it wasn't even close.
All right, how about this one? Oh, Maine South again.
Right
We
there.
got a hand check. He called a hand check. All right. Let's play it again fast, and then I'll play it slow.
Shoved him too. Could have been a push. Right there, see? Tried to steal the ball.
He just
Boom,
called a
right
hand check. He didn't call. Well, I didn't slow that part down.
right there. Look, right there.
Right. But that's my point is, okay, maybe his hand right here goes on him, maybe, but the ball kind of got knocked loose, right? So they're both going after it. And then what does the offensive player do? He shoves him off. If you're not going to call this a hand check, right? He puts his hand on him, keeps it on him, stops, then you shouldn't call that a hand check, in my opinion.
I would have called that a hand. I would have called, you pushed him. What's the way he's almost running the guy over?
Well, when I watched the clip, that's what I saw. I saw a player control foul. Now, again, to be fair to this official, look at, he's stacked. To Ken Ropiak's point, although he's right between them, you can't really see what's happening to the ball, can you? Because the bodies are blocking it. So what he sees is his hand on the backside.
Look at the center. He's watching the play up front. See the center?
Right, but we need to know, if I'm this official, I need to now use my judgment as to what I think might be happening on this side. I know that's unfair to do because we don't know what's happening, but the ball just got knocked loose. What do you think is happening? They're both trying to get control of it. It's going to have to be a pretty big foul or push for me to call something while they're trying to get the ball. Ball gets knocked loose. Oh, okay. Who's going to get it? Anything illegal? No, not really. Okay, he just got control. What? He shoved the guy. That's what I'm calling. I'm calling a player control in this foul.
What did he call?
He called a hand check on the black.
On the black, huh? Yeah, I'd have gone the other way.
But my point is, this is a hand check, and he called nothing.
Right.
And that's fine. I'm okay with calling nothing here. But then you shouldn't call the other one a hand check either.
See, I would have called it a hand check. When he practically mauled the guy to get the ball, the white had control of the ball. I wouldn't have called it a hand check. I would have called it different to me. Right there is where.
Right, a player control on the white player.
No.
Yes.
What you got a foul on black there?
I do. Right there. You see how he's like, White's got control of the ball right there.
There's no contact yet.
There is too. Right there. What is his left armpit? He's all over the guy.
Right, let's just be fair here, Art. Watch to the best of your ability.
That's not much.
Watch the reaction of his body. Does his body go toward the division line? Because if it does even slightly, then you're right. The black player probably contacted him, which moved his
right
big
there.
body.
I call nothing right there. Okay.
Watch his body.
I'll tell you.
Watch his body.
Boom! Right there is where I hit him. Watch his left arm, and he reaches. All
right. So you're saying he came in too hard and reached. And
yes.
All right. That's fine.
Right. Keep going. There, right there.
That's a good point.
Okay, now I'm not going to disagree with you.
They call.
What happened before it?
I'm not going to disagree with you, Art, but at the exact same time that you said that's a foul, White is pushing him off at the exact same time. Push off right there
is where. See, but he had his arm. He had his arm up like this. He's not extending the arm. He's got his arm up right here. He's
right in his neck. That is
He's
not a
got it
basketball.
up.
That's not a basketball play.
He's got it up right here.
Hey, you guys, you got to settle down. I got a double foul. Point of interruption.
Well, all right. So, I mean, again, that just shows you. But do you agree, Art, that's probably not a hand check?
I'm not calling that right there. I'm not calling it. And then the left arm for the offensive player is right here. It's not raised. It's right here.
Well,
It's
now
right here.
so let's be fair. If this is a foul on Black, it shouldn't be a hand check. It should be something
it's not.
else because the contact was hard enough one way or the other was hard enough to be something else.
I wouldn't have called a hand check. Neither one. I still say he pushed him. I mean, watch him. I mean, watch the left when he reaches in. He's right there.
Wow.
I'm calling a player control foul. Me personally.
Well, you're
although
higher ranked.
I
You're
might
higher ranked than
I might
am.
pass on it too. It depends on the context of the game, I suppose.
You're higher ranked than I am, so I got to go.
All right.
I got a foul on
Black. Right there.
All right. You guys want to see more hand checks or you want to finish with something else? I got some other stuff here.
Whatever you want, boss. This is your show.
You're so kind.
Mother stuff.
All right. I want to show you this. This happened to me in a game this week. I just marked it up today. I think I did a pretty nice job. So you can give me a pat on the back later.
Sure.
We're going to have a 3-point shot down here. All right. If you can see, you probably can't. There's about 45 seconds left in the fourth. So it's near the end of the game. It's 47-55. They're up by, what is that? 8 points?
Yeah.
All right. 45 seconds, up by 8 in the fourth. Okay, we got a foul. The lead calls a foul. I'm going to play it fast again and then slow. The lead calls a foul.
Why are you late getting down there?
Because I'm lazy. All right, side note, Art, I've showed this to a couple people and they said, Josh, you got to close down more.
I just
and they're totally right. I was lazy. Why am I standing at the division line? That is terrible. This is a terrible position. All this space. This is my primary, and I'm this far away. That's terrible. But we're not talking about that.
Okay.
Art is.
I want to talk about, did he actually get fouled or did he fake or flop? What do you guys think? I'm going to play it slow, but then you can answer.
He's not straight up, is he? You can hardly tell. You hit him in the hands. Looks like, didn't it?
So you got a foul, Art?
I don't know. I'm not quite made up my mind yet. Give me another minute.
He gave him a high five. To me, even if the kid doesn't fall, to me, this is nothing all day. He didn't knock his arm, caused the shot. He barely, he touched him. You're right. He contacted him, but it didn't really do anything.
His mask is down.
That's a foul, technical foul on the mask. Now, here's my question. Whose primary area is that?
Yours.
It's a trail.
There's the ball. So the ball's there. It's the trail's primary area. Yes. So the trail, even though he's all the way out here, right? I get it. He's watching this matchup as he should. We've got one set of eyes on this play. Can you see where this official is looking?
Right at the plate.
Why is he looking at this play? He's not watching this. He's not
because
watching
if you would have been where you're supposed to have been, he would have felt comfortable.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. There's the lead's primary. He should be watching this matchup.
Yeah, he should.
And I think he also should be aware of this. I mean, he needs to be aware of this. Don't get me wrong, because he might drive in and he's got to be ready for it. I get that. But he should be primarily watching this, and he should also maybe keep an eye out for this because he knows the trail is watching the ball, as the trail should be watching the ball. All right, so as the play develops, does anything change? No, it's still the trails area. It's still the trails call, especially when you know he's going up for a 3. Everything outside that 3-point arc does not belong to the lead, no matter that the lead is closer or not. It is the trails call. Who's got the best angle, even though he's way out here? I agree that's terrible.
It's you.
The trail, he's looking through the players. He can see what contact happens or doesn't happen, assuming he's, in a better position. Lead should still be watching this, because what's going to happen when this ball goes up?
We're all going to go rebound.
These kids are going to turn and they're going to start pushing and shoving and jockeying for position. He's got to be on that. Where is he still looking?
Shooter.
He's still looking over here. All right. So then the ball goes up, and I just want to prove that he's looking over here. Watch his head turn now that the shot goes up. Oh, yeah, I'll look over there now. Now,
Did you say something?
If you call, no, I didn't say anything. There's 45 seconds left in the game. They're down by 8. Even if he puts all 3 in, it's probably not going to change anything. My point is, once he shoots the ball and calls the foul, now why does he feel like he has to turn over here now? He called the foul. Why even look over here if you're not looking here in the first place? Do we agree?
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, I can't wrap my mind around why he would then do that. My point is here now. The kid, look at that. He's already throwing his legs out to fall because he's trying. Why do you think he's falling to try and get a foul?
Yes.
Because they're down by 8 with 45 seconds left. He needs to get fouled in order to try and get back in the game. We need to be aware of game situations. And someone said once, we shouldn't be roughing time and score. And for the most part, yeah, that's true. But we should. We need to know the time. We need to know the score, because players do certain things at certain points in the game. And so if we are going to be fooled by a player because he's smart enough to do something at the end of the game, I mean, I guess shame on us, because we need to know that if he goes down, did he really get fouled?
So what happened in the post-game meeting?
We left. This is COVID.
Oh,
Game's over. You get your coat on and walk out. Do you think he pushed off before he shot with that one arm?
No,
I'm just asking you. I don't think so, but I'm just asking you.
Now, again, this, for those that don't know, this is me. And yes, I'm out of position, but I saw the whole play, and I knew from the get-go that the kid fell on his own. Just watching, he fell. There wasn't, maybe like you or maybe he hit him a little bit. Yeah, maybe. But a normal kid doesn't fall like that when he gets hit on the wrist of a 3-point shot. Is that the way a kid falls when he gets hit up top?
What, see his right arm when he was
Absolutely not. If he got hit in the legs, it's because he threw his legs into the dribbler. In fact, this blocker, he jumps to the side even to try and avoid him. He wasn't jumping at him. This kid flopped the whole way, flopped. And in my opinion, that's why we need a flop rule. Of course, he would have called a foul and we couldn't have called a flop then. But, this happens a lot. Kids flop on 3-point shots. And guys, I don't know how, I don't have a percentage, but I'm going to guess half the time guys probably give them the foul. We can't assume something happens because a kid falls. If you don't know, don't blow your whistle.
Well, I was talking number 1 red. Watch his right arm when he kind of just before the shot, the way he pushed off. That's what I was just.
Oh,
just
like
just for conversation.
Right there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was no big deal. I'm just throwing it out to you.
I think he puts it out there to ward him off, but I don't think he did anything illegal.
No, he did not.
Or affecting. Do we have a question?
Yeah, you were asking about why he looked the other direction after this. I was thinking he's probably looking to see if the ball went in.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's actually a good answer. You're probably right. Did it go in? See, there's always an answer. I don't have all the answers.
Of course, he's not supposed to be looking there, but but I mean, I think that's probably what he was doing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
That's why you got to stay in your primary, Schroeder.
Yeah, stay in your primary. And again, guys say, well, you got to help out here. I've said it before. An NBA official, Mark Davis, said they used to chart calls, and they did one on primary, secondary, and they said, I think it was like 95% of the time when an official called out of their primary area, they were wrong. So you could say, well, I got a good look at it. Yeah, but you still probably got it wrong. 95% chance you got it wrong because it's not your primary. There's a reason we have primary areas, right? The reasoning is I'm in the right spot to see this area and to properly judge on this area. You are not. You got to turn your head or you got to look over or so stay in your primary. Now, it doesn't mean always, right? It doesn't mean help out, but when do we help out coming out of our primary? On a train wreck.
Yeah.
Right? On a foul that is so awful that if you pass, the whole crew looks bad. You can come get that. But on a little one, in my opinion, we can't second guess our partners. So, all right, you guys have anything else you want to see? I can find it hopefully quick, but
you got a 5-second call on you, buddy. You're done.
At least it's not a 10-second. All right, that's about an hour. I know hand checks aren't the most fun.
You got 3 minutes to go.
But I think hand checks are terribly important and need to be talked about. And I don't know. We got to get on the same. We got to get on the same page, really.
Joshua, real quick, I'm sorry if I missed it. When we're talking about the hand checks, what is your opinion on vocalizing hot stove, or should we do it? Should we not do it? Should we move away from it? Does it catch us up with maybe providing warnings and then moving away from it? Does it just make it more difficult with the coaches and stuff?
I just want to understand what you're asking. If you are passing on a hand check and trying to talk a kid through it, is that what you're asking?
No, in that first quarter when defense is being played in front of the coach's bench, what's your opinion about just kind of like being a little bit more vocal around hands off, and then progressing into I'm calling everything because I've already talked to you about it.
All right, so
and everybody on the court has heard me. Your co-players are all heard me saying hands off. So everyone, I'm calling it from here on because I've said it.
I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. I'm trying to think my wording because I know some guys will say hands off, and that's okay because again, if you're trying to help the kids and the coaches and those who can hear, one, to let you know that you're watching for it, and two, you're trying to help them out of it, I think that's okay. The problem is a lot of coaches don't like that.
Right.
Why are you giving him a pass? Call the foul if he fouls him. So I personally don't like to say that. Doesn't mean I never do. I probably do sometimes. Hey, hands off. But if it's a hand check, call it. Don't be afraid to call it. And then when you do call it, be confident. Let him know, hand check. He got him. Coach, he put his hand on him if he questions it. If you are confident and you exude that confidence with that call, they're going to believe the next one even more because I got it. You can't put your hand on them, but I'm not going to put up with it. And that's what we got. Does that make sense, or does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Now at the earlier levels, it's the same for all levels, right? Because you can be out there all day with calls in your freshman and sophomore games, but definitely they should already understand the principle by the varsity level.
Yeah, when you get to the lower levels, it's a lot more complicated because again, they're at the lower level, right? They're not as good as a varsity player. It doesn't mean we should give them a pass because they need to learn. But I remember working a sophomore game once, and it was at a camp, right? We're at a camp. You're there to impress the clinician or the person who's watching you so you can maybe get games. And it was the summer after our first season of hand checks. We've got to call hand checks. Everyone remember that if you've been working long enough? We got drilled, right? For 6-8 weeks before the season. Call it. The IHSA says call it. Next meeting, guys, they're not kidding. Call it. Then the assigners come in. I've talked to all my assigners and said, all right, so we're all on board. So that summer, I'm calling hand checks. It's a sophomore tournament. And I'm muting everyone. So if you want to talk, you got unmute. It's a sophomore tournament. I call 4, 5, 6 hand checks. The kids aren't adjusting, and probably rightfully so. They said, Josh, you're being too critical, or you're not what, and I disagree. But at the same time, you have to know the level you're working, right? So if it's a sophomore level and you, after your third hand check, see that they're not adjusting, I'm not saying you should stop calling it, but I am saying don't be so strict, because you're just going to constantly be stopping because the kids literally aren't getting it. So maybe talk to the coach and say, Coach, the hands are really out of control. I don't want to keep calling it because they don't seem to be adjusting, or I don't know, however you want to handle it. But my point is, know the level you're at and kind of adjust your tolerance level to that level. At the varsity level, absolutely. They should all get it. They should know it. And if they don't adjust, then they're going to be sitting on the bench because they're a varsity player. You need to adjust, or your coach needs to adjust, or whoever, someone needs to adjust. Sophomore level, sophomore coaches, they aren't quite the same level. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other questions? Hand check. Again, hand checks aren't fun. They're not fun for me either, even when I call them. But as we said, they set a precedent. They let everybody know you're not going to handle it, even though you end up letting 5 hand checks go later in the game. They don't realize you let 5 hand checks go later in the game because you called the first 2. So doesn't mean make them up, but if you see them, call them early, and you're going to be way better off, I think, for the rest of the game. All right. If anyone doesn't have anything else, we can go. I'll stay on as long as you need me to. But otherwise, that's it. Art, I'm 2 minutes over.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. Again,
Thank
I know
you.
a lot of you are working, but I appreciate you coming in, and it just shows your dedication to getting better. So
We're just here because of you, Josh. You're such a great teacher.
hey, well, my head's getting
Josh, you got another date?
I do. Thursday, March 25th. So the end of March. What are we talking about?
Legal guarding position.
Oh, that's going to be a fun one. That's basically block charge. I love legal guarding position. A lot of time I try to find a bunch of them at the top of the key and whatnot, but
Preview.
LGP, I'll tell you what, if you're on Facebook and you're not part of the Officials Institute group, ask to join, because almost always I give at least one preview video before the meeting so you can kind of get a taste. But you know,
You're
I'm
not
trying.
on Facebook though. I'm
If
not
you're not on
Facebook.
Facebook, you don't need to join. I mean, it's just a Facebook thing. Take care, guys. We'll see you next month.
Be safe. Thanks,
For
Josh.
all you
Thank
Illinois
you.
officials, enjoy the rest of your quote unquote season,
Okay.
All right, we'll see you.
and
All right, take care,
we'll talk
guys.
soon.
Be safe. Be safe.
Have a good postseason. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.